Warm welcome to all the students. Today we are going to see what are the different operators that are available in Java. So we have arithmetic operators, our usual mathematical operators like plus, minus, multiplication, divide and modulus. Then we have relational operators like C or C++. Here also we have less than equal to, greater than equal to, not equal to, double equal to. That's a comparison operator. So these are all the relational operators that are available in Java. Then we have logical operators available in Java. Logical operators are logical AND, logical OR and logical NOT. These are the logical operators available in Java. And we have assignment operator, that is single equal to, where the content from the right hand side of the equal to is assigned or stored in left hand side operand. Okay, we will hold back the usage of the relational and logical operators till we do loops, because only after doing loops, branching and loops, we will be actually writing the programs wherein we will be using these relational and logical operators. So until that time we will restrict our discussion on relational and logical operators. Coming to assignment operator, we have already declared so many variables. So assignment operators we have already seen. Okay, then you have arithmetic operators. Okay, then after that you have increment and decrement operators. So plus and minus, they are called as increment and decrement operators. They are unary operators because they work on only one operand. Then we have conditional operators in Java. So this particular expression is called as conditional expression. We evaluate whether the expression is true, and if the expression is true, then statement 1 will be executed, otherwise statement 2 will be executed. In fact, this operator, okay, which is used in conditionals, this operator is called as ternary operator. Okay, ternary operator, a very important operator while doing the while writing the programs. Now we are also going to focus on the bitwise operators. Now these bitwise operators, there are altogether 7 different bitwise operators. Bitwise operators are basically used, they work on binary strings, okay, zeros and ones, right? So this is bitwise AND, bitwise OR, bitwise XOR, then this is ones complement, okay, or complement. Then this is called as left bit shift operator, this is called as right bit shift operator, and this is called as shift right with zero fill. So these are the 7 bitwise operators. Then you have a special operator in Java that is called as instance of operator, and we also have an operator called as dot operator. So altogether there are these 9 significant operators which are available in Java. Talking about the arithmetic operators, okay, remember when both the operands are integers, the result of the operation is integer. For example, we have the first integer operand, say int 1 is the variable of type integer, int 2 is also a variable of type integer. Now since both the operands are integer, if an operation OP or if an operand, if an operator OP is applied to both the operands, if an operator OP is applied to both the operands which are integer, the output of this happens to be the integer. Output of the operation happens to be integer, and that's called as integer arithmetic. As an example, we have integer variable A with value 14, integer variable B with value 4. Now you perform any of these arithmetic operations, the answers will be always integer answers. Now whenever you perform division, what will happen is, since A and B both are integers, the decimal part which is supposed to be there, that decimal part will be truncated and you will get the answer only as 3, right? Fine. So now for mod operator, modulus operator always gives you remainder, and that is always integer, and multiplication also will give you integer value. So this is all called as integer arithmetic. Now in Java, the arithmetic operator also supports something called as real arithmetic. Arithmetic is called as real when both the operands are real and the output of the operation is also real. For example, if the first operand is real, say real 1, second operand is also real, say real 2, whatever arithmetic operator that is applied to both the real operands, the answer will be always in a real form. And Java also allows a mixed mode operation. Now mixed mode operation is the one wherein one operand is real and the other is integer, okay, or non-real. So what will happen is, in such cases, the non-real operand will be converted to real and the arithmetic will be performed. For example, you have 15 by 10.0. You see that 15 is an integer value and 10.0 is a floating point value. So in such mixed mode expressions, okay, since 15 is a non-real number or integer number, 15 will be converted to a floating point number, and then this floating point or a real division will be produced, and as a result you will get answer as 1.5. Whereas suppose 10 was not a floating point, it was an integer value, and 15 is also an integer value. If both are integer, then the integer division will be performed and the answer is 1. You see that 0.5 will be truncated. So there is a loss of data. So this is what is there in arithmetic operators in Java. Let us go to the next type of operators, which are relational operators. Okay, now remember, as I have told you, these relational operators we are going to use when we are going to write programs using if-else statement, that's a branching statements, or using loops. That time we'll be using these operators. But one thing you all have to remember is that whenever these operators are applied to an expression, the value or the answer of this relational arithmetic is always either true or false. Now in Java, okay, true and false, these are the distinct values of type Boolean, as we already know, correct? Then we have logical operators. Now logical operators are basically used, double ampersand, that is called as logical AND, then double pipes, that is called as logical or exclamation mark, that is called as logical NOT. Okay, these are also the operators that work on expressions. Okay, now let us see one small example of the usage of relational and logical operators. However, the program we shall discuss when we are going to learn branching and looping. That time we will actually see the working demo program. Okay, as an example, suppose I have an expression like this: if, say, percentage of a person is greater than or equal to 75. Okay, so if the percentage variable has value greater than or equal to 75, you see that this particular operator is a relational operator, that is greater than equal to. So if this condition is true, and now this is nothing but logical AND operator, and if the second thing is also true, that is percentage is less than or equal to 100. So that means if the percentage is from 75 to 100%, okay, if both these conditions are true, if this is true and the second thing is true, only then you are going to print a message that the person has got distinction. Okay, second example, if number is not equal to 1, okay, just see, this is called as not equal to operator. Okay, if the number is not equal to 1 and if the number is greater than 5, so this is one expression. So it just says if the number is not equal to 1 or if the number is greater than 5, that means either any one of this is true, and if the number mod 2 is equal to 1, now here double equal to does not mean assignment, it means it is comparing the left hand side and right hand side. If number mod 2, that means if the number is divided by 2, okay, if the remainder happens to be 1, okay, then you execute this particular code. So this is just another example how you can use the logical operators and the relational operators in a mixed mode. So we are going to see this when we are going to see some programs, okay, after discussion of if else statements and other branching statements and loops. So till then we will hold a discussion of these two operators. Let us see the assignment operator. We said that single equal to is an assignment operator. So whenever you have single equal to, it means suppose I say suppose I declare a variable, say int a, and then I say a equal to 10. What it means is this right hand side value 10 is stored in left hand side variable a. So this single equal to, it assigns to the variable the value which is there on the right hand side. Now there are also some shorthand notations when we discuss assignment operators. Suppose I have a equal to a plus b. So this can be written in shorthand as a plus equal to b. Now for writing in shorthand, you should remember that the left hand side variable and the variable on the right hand side here, they should be same. Only then you can write in shorthand. Similarly, a equal to a minus b, this can be also written as a minus equal to b. So this is a shorthand notation for writing a equal to a minus b, right? Similarly, a equal to a into b can be written in shorthand as a into equal to b. Division can be written as a divide equal to b, and mod can be written as a mod equal to b. So these are the shorthand notations that we have already used this in C as well as in C++. So this is just for telling you that in Java also we use the same shorthand notations. Okay, now let us go to increment and decrement operators in Java. Again, this concept is exactly same as what we have studied in C or what we have studied in C++. Okay, coming to the expressions wherein this plus plus or minus minus, if it is expressed before a variable, okay, then it is called as pre-increment operator. Okay, whenever this plus plus, that is called as increment operator, or minus minus, that is called as decrement operator, whenever these operators are written before the variable name, it is called as pre-increment or pre-decrement operator. Okay, as opposing this, whenever these operators, that is increment operator or decrement operator, whenever they are written after the variable name, then they are called as post increment or post decrement operators. Now they have different meanings. So whenever you have a increment or decrement operator that is written before before a variable, then the meaning is you have to first increment and then store the result into the variable. Okay, pre-increment means you first increment and then you store the result, and post increment, it means first store the result and then increment. Okay, now let us see an example. Suppose I have this code. Let us execute this code and see. Okay, now when this particular first line is executed, what will happen is in the memory, okay, a variable with name a is created and value 10 is stored, right? Now when the next line is encountered, it sees that there is a equal to operator which is assignment operator. Okay, so whenever you have assignment operator, remember that the right hand side will be executed first and then the result will be stored. Okay, but what is the right hand side? Right hand side is nothing but you have pre-increment. That means plus plus or increment operator is written before a variable name a. So that's called as pre-increment. And the meaning of pre-increment here I have already said. Pre-increment means what? You first increment and then store the result. So what will happen? First, this a will be incremented by 1. That's called as pre-increment. See, basically when you use increment, by default you increment a number by 1. So whenever say a plus plus, it is actually equivalent to a equal to a plus 1. Remember this. Whenever you write a plus plus, it is actually, you can say, a shorthand of writing. It means a equal to a plus 1. Right? So by default incrementation is 1. Similarly, if I say plus plus a, this also means a equal to a plus 1. Right? In both cases you are incrementing the number by 1, but the placement of this plus plus, that is either before or after this variable name, okay, the meaning becomes different. So in this case, plus plus is written before A. So what it means is, first it is going to increment. What it is going to increment? It is going to increment the variable A. Okay, so first it is going to increment the variable A. So A, which was 10, now it becomes 11. So A, which was earlier 10, now A becomes 11. And then after incrementing the variable, then it is going to store the result. Okay, so then whatever is the incremented value 11 will be stored in B. So the variable B will contain that incremented value, that is 11. So whenever you have a pre-increment, okay, when you try to print, you will see that A is also 11, B is also 11. Now we have slightly changed the code. Instead of writing plus plus before A, I am writing plus plus after A. So this is called as post increment. Okay, so again see, we will have two variables, variable A, variable B. Let's see what is going to happen in this case. First, A will be assigned value 10. So since A will be assigned value 10, 10 will be stored in variable A. Fine. 10 will be stored in variable A. Then next statement, it encounters that there is an assignment operator. So first this is going to be solved, the right hand side value is going to be solved. Now it notices that there is a post increment, and post increment means first store the result and then increment. So what it will do is, it will first store the current value of A into B. So B will become 10, because A was 10, B will become 10. So post means what? It means first store the value and then increment the value. And then after storing this A, which is 10, to B, after storing this A, which is 10, onto B, then it is going to increment the value of A. So then when you increment the value of A was 10, now A becomes 11. A was 10, so now A becomes 11. What happens to B? B remains as 10 only. Okay. So what is the meaning of post increment? Post increment means first store the value and then increment. So when this statement is encountered, when the right hand side is executed, when it tries to execute the right hand side, it sees that plus plus is written after the variable name. So it notices that it is post increment. And post increment means what? First store the current value of the variable into B. So current value was A was 10, right? Current value of A was 10. So that 10 it is going to store in B. So B gets the value 10. So after storing, then it is going to increment the variable A. So then A becomes 11. So B remains 10, A becomes 11, and in this case both A and B, they are 11. So this is the difference between pre and post increment. Similar, same, okay, only instead of incrementing it is going to decrement, subtract 1 from it. Same will be the effect when you are going to use decrement operators. Fine. So we have already learned this concept in C as well as in C++. This was just a revision. Then this is a conditional operator. This operator is also, as I have told you, it is also called as ternary operator. Now later on you are going to see something called as branching operations, in which you are going to see something called as if and else statement. So this is a shorthand or an easier way of writing if and else statement. Okay. Now what is the meaning of this particular operator? Okay, it is written, the syntax is like this. It first checks condition 1. So it will first check the condition. If this condition happens to be true, the expression 1 will be executed. Otherwise, the expression 2 will be executed. A simple program, Java program, to determine if a number is odd or even. Okay, so I will be taking the number input from the keyboard. So just for simplicity, I am using a scanner class for it. So I am writing here import java.util.scanner. Java.util package has a class called as scanner, and through this scanner classes function, I am going to take the value from the keyboard. Then you have a public static, okay, you have a class called as event detector, which I have created, and in this class you have your main function. Now in the main function, first I am going to create a scanner object sc. Notice that the scanner object takes system.in as an argument. System.in is a default representative of the keyboard. Now I have declared a variable called as number, integer variable called as number. I am initializing it to 0. Also the final answer, to store final answer, I am using a variable called as answer, and the data type of that answer variable is a string. Notice that S is capital here because string is not a primitive data type. String basically is a class, predefined class which is created in Java. Okay, and this string class will have different functions that you can use to work on string. So when I say string answer, answer is basically a variable of type string. Fine, and it is initialized to null. Now I will be taking input from the keyboard. So I will be using my try block. So my entire code of taking input from the keyboard, all this code will be in the try block. Try block will check whether there are any input errors. Now first I will ask the user to enter a number. Right? Now I have already created a scanner class SC. So I am going to use a function nextInt function that will take the input from the keyboard and treat it as an integer, and that value will be stored in number variable. So what is number variable? Number variable will store whatever data that is input from the keyboard, which is read by nextInt function. So sc.nextInt is going to read that number, whatever value that I enter from the keyboard, treat it as an integer, and then that integer value will be stored in number variable. Okay, so suppose I enter number equal to 3. Now I am going to use this conditional statement. Okay, and the final answer will be stored in answer variable, which is of type string. Okay, so now the syntax of conditional operator is, first we are going to check the condition, and then there is a question mark. So what condition we are checking here? Now if a number mod 2 is 0, then the number is even, correct? So the condition that we are checking is the number mod 2 equal to 0? What is number? We have just taken input from the keyboard, that is stored in number. Assume that the value that I have entered from the keyboard is 3. So let's say number variable is storing value 3. So now it will perform 3 mod of 2. Is it equal to 0? It is not. So since it is not 0, it is not going to execute this part, rather it is going to execute this part. And what is this part? Okay, it is just a string called as odd. That means the string variable called as answer will store value equal to odd if the number that user has entered through the keyboard, mod of 2, does not turn out to be 0. That means it's an odd number. So the answer variable will store odd if this is false, and the answer variable will store the string value even if this happens to be true. So finally, whatever is the answer, it is going to print on the computer screen the number is even or odd based on the answer variable's value. So this is the end of the try block. So all this you are going to write in a try block. Okay, why try block? Because while taking input, Java considers the fact that user might make some error. So the try block will try to catch such error. Okay. Now this catch block is going to execute that error. So exception E, and I am just going to write, if at all there is some error generated, then it is going to print a message input error, and it is going to print what error it is. Okay, and this is the end of void main, this is the end of class. So this is one small example how we can use conditional operators. Okay, this is just a replacement of simple if else statement, right? Now we will focus on a very important operator that is called as bitwise operator. These bitwise operators, they work on individual bits of a binary number. Let us first understand the working of binary numbers. So let us see how decimal number can be converted to a binary number. For example, we have a number 45 that is in decimal. Okay. Now how to convert it to binary number? So I'll just show you what I have done here. Okay, I'll be solving it again. So the number that is given to me is 45. You are going to do something called as binary division. Okay, so you try to take 2 over here and try to see whether this 45 is divisible by 2. Now 2 how much are 4? So it is 2 2s are 4. Then 2 how much are 5? 5 is not there in the table of 2. But what is the nearest number? 2 2s are 4 and 4 is nearest to 5. So you will write here 2 2s are 4. So after writing 2 2s are 4, this number is 5. 2 2s are 4. So there is a remainder that is generated, that is 1. Correct? Again, you try to divide this with 2. 2 1s are 2, 2 1s are 2. There is no remainder generated, so you write 0 here. Now 2 how much are 11? 11 is not there in the table of 2, but the nearest value is 10. So 2 5s are 10, right? And the remainder, that is 1. Then 2 how much are 5? 5 is not there, but 4 is the nearest. 2 2s are 4. Remainder generated is 1. So write. Then 2 how much are 2? You say 2 1s are 2. Remainder is 0. And 2 how much are 1? 2 zeros are, okay, 2 zeros are 1. So the remainder is 1. And then you start reading the remainders from bottom to top. So when you read the remainders from bottom to top, you will get 1 0 1 1 0 1. Okay, so this is the same number that I have written here, 1 0 1 1 0 1. So that is nothing but it's a binary equivalent of a decimal number 45. Now in this calculation of ours, I am assuming that we are dealing with 8-bit numbers. Now the number that is generated here happens to be a 6-bit number, 1 2 3 4 5 6. So I will be just adding 2 more zeros in the beginning, which will not hamper the original value of the number. So after adding 2 bits here in the MSB part, okay, you get 8 bits. So this is basically 45 in binary. So it can be written as 0010 1101. Now if you want to convert binary number to a decimal number, okay, then there is another conversion method. One method we have already learned in our previous classes while learning C or C++. They must have taught you how to convert binary to decimal. I would like to focus on another method called as double method. This is even quicker method. Okay, so now the binary number that we have is this 45, which I have written here, 00101101, and these are the bit positions. So this is the least significant bit, 0, then 1, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, 7, right? Now you have a variable, say you take a variable called as total and initialize it to 0. Now the formula that we use is double the previous total and add the next LMB, leftmost bit. Okay, so total variable initially it is 0, so that is equal to the previous total into 2 plus the current leftmost bit. Okay, now let us start. Let us convert this into decimal and see. So I said initially the total happens to be 0. Okay, so in the step 1 the total is, so this value is 0, 0 into 2 plus what is current leftmost bit? Okay, the current LMB happens to be 0, right? That's why I have written here 0. Leftmost bit. Okay, so this is basically leftmost bit, this is basically rightmost bit. This is called as most significant bit, this is called as least significant bit. Okay, so when I say LMB, it is the leftmost bit, which is sorry, I have written it the other way around. This is leftmost bit is basically most significant bit, and rightmost bit is a least significant bit. Okay, now so when I say current LMB, I am talking about the current leftmost bit, which is most significant bit. Leftmost bit, which is the most significant bit. So that I added. So when you do this multiplication, 2 into 0 is 0 plus 0, the total value is 0. So again in the formula, next total will be the previous total, that is 0 into 2 plus, which is the next leftmost bit. I have already considered this leftmost bit, so next leftmost bit is also 0. That's why the value here is 0. Again the result of this calculation is 0. So in the step 3, total is equal to the previous total, that is 0, multiplied by 2, plus what is the current leftmost bit. What is the current leftmost bit? That is 1. And that's why 1 is written here. So now the value of this happens to be 1. That's the current value of total. Then again in the next step, total is equal to the previous total, that is 1, into 2, plus what is the next bit that is to be considered, that is this 0, right? So this is that 0. So the answer of this is 2. So in the next step, the previous total value will be 2, it is this 2, into 2, plus what is the next significant bit to be considered, that is 1, right? So this value is 1. So 2 to the 4 plus 1 is nothing but 5. That's the total. In the next step, the previous total happens to be 5 into 2 plus what is the next bit to be considered, that is also 1, this one. So as a result, it is 1 over here. So 5 to the 10 plus 1 is 11. So that's a total value. In the next step, the previous total, that is 11 into 2, plus what is the current significant bit, that is 0, correct? So you have 0 here. So 11 into 2 plus 0 is 22. That's a total value that we get. And then finally the previous total is 22 into 2 plus what is the last remaining bit to be considered, that is 1. So that 1 is here. So 22 into 2 is 44 plus 1 is 45. So that means the number that I have taken in binary is equivalent to 45 with the decimal. So this method is called as double method, right? This is just another method to the one which we have already learned. Okay, so I am using this method. Next, after learning how to convert binary to decimal, how to convert decimal to binary, let us now actually see each of these operators. So we have the first operator, single AND, that's called as bitwise AND. Your logical AND that we have already studied has double ampersand. This logical AND is used for logical expressions, right? It cannot be used for binary numbers, whereas this single ampersand is used for bitwise, that is binary numbers. Both the operands, that is A and B, if both are 0, the answer is 0. If any of the operand is 0, then also the answer is 0. Whereas in the AND gate, if both the operands are 1 only, then the answer is 1, right? As an example, according to the truth table, if the first operand is 1, second is also 1, the output is 1. Then 0 0, the output is 0. 1 1, the output is 1. If any one of the operand is 0, the output is 0. So this is the logical, this is the bitwise AND operation that we have performed. Now when you are going to write a program, okay, suppose I am declaring an integer variable a, and that's a binary value, that is 0 0 1 0 1. Notice that I am using a prefix called as 0b. Now 0b is a prefix that is used when you want to represent a binary numbers. So this 0b, it tells you that this 0 0 1 0 1 is a binary number, that's an integer binary number. Okay, so if I have two binary numbers, then system.out.println, the operation will be this. We will see this particular result. Okay, now next is bitwise OR operator. Okay, this also works on binary numbers. Bitwise OR. Okay, according to the OR gate that we have, or truth table that we have, according to the truth table that we have, if any one of the operand is 1, only then the output is 1. If both are 0, the output is 0. So the output here is 1, 0, 1, 1, 1. So this is the result of the OR operation. Next is bitwise XOR or exclusive OR. So this is a truth table for exclusive OR. Again, only if both the operands are 0 or both the operands are 1, then the output will be 0, otherwise the output is 1. So this is a operation that is called as exclusive OR operation. 1 1 0 0 0 0 1 1 0 0 1 1 0 1 1. So this is bitwise AND operation. Then we have ones complement. It basically inverts bits in a binary number. Okay, ones complement. So for example, if the number is 101101, after the ones complement, this 1 will be converted to 0, this 0 will be converted to 1, this 1 will be converted to 0, 1 to 0, 0 to 1, 1 to 0. So this is basically called as your ones complement, and ones complement notation is tilde symbol on the keyboard, right? So suppose this is an binary integer that is given to us, then you can perform the bitwise ones complement operation by using this particular notation. Now we have reached a very important part in bitwise operators, that's called as left shift and right shift operators. Now what is left shift operator? Given a binary number, left shift operator enables us to shift the bits of that number towards the left with certain positions. So for example, left shift operator, if I use like this, okay, A is the number, that is 00101101, this is the number A, and I am trying to left shift it by 2 positions. So what will happen? Now this is the most significant bit, this is the least significant bit, right? Now what will happen is, from the original binary string that we have, this one, okay, will be shifted 2 positions to the left. So this is okay, so this one will be shifted to 2 positions to the left, that is here. So it will skip this position and the second position, and it will be shifting to the third position. Okay, so this is called as basically left shift, shifting the individual bits towards the left with respect to x positions. In this case, x is 2. So 1, we are shifting 2 bits to the left. 0 also, we are going to shift it 2 bits to the left, 1 and 2. So 0 will be written here. Similarly, this 1 will be shifted 2 bits to the left, 1, 2 bits, third here. 1 will be shifted 2 bits, 1, 2, 3 here. 0 will be shifted to the 2 bits here. 1 will be shifted 2 bits to the left, that is here. Now notice that this 0 and 0 that remains, okay, there is no scope for adding them because your bound is over. So what will happen in left shift is, the most significant bits, they are lost. Okay, also notice that after shifting to the left by 2 bits, the least significant bits or LSB, these 2 places, they are vacant. So what we do is, at the end of this left shift operation, okay, zeros are filled on those empty locations. So 0 is filled here, 0 is filled here, because these 2 places remain empty. So whichever places remain empty, we replace it with 0. This is called as left shift operation. Next we have right shift operation. Now this right shift operation, it can be either signed right shift or unsigned right shift. Now signed right shift means what? Basically we have signed numbers, and whenever you represent signed numbers in binary, okay, the most significant bit, okay, that is this bit, most significant bit, if it is 0, that means the number is positive, and if the most significant bit is 1, that means the number is negative. So this is basically a signed bit when you are going to use signed binary numbers. Okay, so now since this is 0, this is a positive number. Suppose A is 00101101. I am now using which operation? I am performing right shift operation. Left shift was exactly opposite. I am now performing right shift operation. So A, I am trying to right shift every bit in A by 2 positions. So now this is basically the original binary string that we have. This is most significant bit, this is the least significant bit. Now see what will happen. This 0, okay, will be shifted 2 positions to the right. So this is 1 position, this is the second position, it will be shifted to the third position. Similarly, this 0 will be shifted 2 position to the right, first position, second position, it will be shifted to the third position. 1 will be shifted 2 position to the right, first position, second position, so it will be shifted to the third position. Similarly, 0 will be shifted here, 1 will be shifted here, this one will be shifted here. Now there is no place left for remaining 2 LSBs, so they are lost. Also note that by shifting the MSB from here 2 positions to the right, what happens is the first 2 places are vacant. So for right shift operation, okay, if the number is positive, if the most significant bit happens to be 0, then these 2 vacant positions, they are filled with the signed bits. Now what is the sign bit for this particular number? Since it's a positive number, sign bit here for the first MSB is 0. So it simply fills the vacant spaces here with the sign bits, and the sign bit currently is 0 because it's a positive number. Okay, so this 0 is filled here as well as here. Fine. So this is basically the signed right shift operation for the positive number. Notice that here sign bits are lost, right? Next, for a negative number, what will happen now? Since 1 is there as MSB, this is a negative number. So now, suppose I am trying to right shift that number by 3 bits. What will happen? The MSB here will be shifted 3 locations to the right. So this is the first location, this is the second location, this is the third. So it will skip 3 locations. This one will be stored on the 4th location. Then this one will be stored here, this one will be stored here, this one here, and so on. So you will see that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These 5 ones will be filled in this particular way. Okay. The last 3, that is 0, 1, 1, these 3 bits will be lost because there is no space to copy them here. So 0, 1, 1, these 3 last bits will be lost. Also notice that since this MSB shifted 3 positions to the right, these 3 positions here, they will be empty. So since it's a negative number, what we are going to do, all these 3 positions will be filled with the sign bit, and since it's a negative number, the sign bit happens to be 1. So the 3 vacant places are going to be filled with 1, 1, 1, which is a sign bit, negative number sign bit, right? So this is basically a right shift operation for a negative number. So in both these operations, okay, with right shift, what we have done, whatever is the sign bit, that sign bit is filled on the vacant positions at the MSB. So here the sign was negative, that is 1, so 1 got copied here, and here the sign is positive, that is 0, so 0 got copied here in the vacant places. Now there is also another operation which is called as right shift with 0 fill. Now here these operations are exactly same as the right shift operation that we have carried out here. The difference is, in the normal right shift, the vacant places were filled with sign bits here, 0 since it's a positive number here, and 1 since this is a negative number here. Whereas in this operation, the notation is 3 greater than signs. Here the notation is 2 greater than signs, here 3 greater than sign. So here what will happen, the operation remains same, but only thing is that the vacant spaces are not filled with the sign bits, but they are always filled with zeros, no matter whether it's a positive number or negative number, right? So see, I have taken the same example, the shifting has happened like this, okay, but the 2 vacant places here, they are filled with zeros, not because it's a positive number, they are just filled with zeros, not the sign bit. Now for a negative number also, after shifting these values, you see the 3 vacant positions, they are not filled with the sign bit 1, they are filled with zeros only. So whether the number is negative or whether the number is positive, the vacant places in case of shift right with zero fill. That's why it's called as zero fill. Okay, for this operation, the vacant places are always filled with zeros, no matter whether it's a negative number or whether it's a positive number. So these are the 7 different bitwise operators that we have in Java. Next, we have a special operator in Java. This operator was not there in C as well as C++. This is called as instance of operator. This is basically an object reference operator. This operator, it returns true if object on the left hand side is an instance of a class which is given on the right hand side. Example, if I write the statement like this, instance of, say, person, instance of student, where instance of is a operator. S is capital here, that means student is a class and person is an object. Now this statement, it says that person is an instance of, that means person is an object of the class called as student. Now in the program, if this is true, if this is correct, the answer of this statement will return true, and if this is not correct, the answer of this statement will be false. C is a dot operator. This dot operator is basically used to access the instance variables and the methods of class objects. For example, this is one object of a class, and suppose in that class there is a member method, that is age, then person1 object can access that particular member variable age with a dot operation, provided this age should be public. Similarly, suppose get data is a public method in the class, then then object person1 of that class can access that get data public function using dot operator.